Greetings, one and all. Today's talk focuses on the fact that Elon Musk hates the color yellow, so therefore there's no yellow in the factory, number one. Number two, we take a look at the contrast between the Model S and the Model 3 production facilities. In the case of the Model S, the layout of those facilities was partially done by Toyota, and then Tesla took that over, and there's been no headaches there. But when it comes to the Model 3 facilities, all kinds of headaches. Toyota not involved, and it's more of a Tesla process. So I just wanted you guys to once again take a look at the charging facilities in what's called Washington, D.C.'s National Harbor. We're actually in a place called Oxon Hill, Maryland, but it's the nearest large charging facility for Tesla vehicles, and I think one of the most beautiful because it has a whole bunch of great restaurants, etc. And obviously a lot of charging bays and one of the best charging facilities around. So I'm gonna jump in the car right now so we can get out of the rain. And we can set up once again. So greetings, this is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. I have to admit, we're a little bit, all right, that's better. This is Greg once again for Tesla Fan Insight. Thank you for joining us. If this is the first time on the channel, please take time to like and subscribe, as well as hit the bell icon so you don't miss anything. A couple of other notes is that we've been talking with our viewers about how many ads to put in. Usually we do them one at a, hey Jerry, we do one at about the 5-minute mark, but I wanted to note to you that we can see when you guys respond, and we're happy to see you, and I'll respond at the end because everybody's asked that I not interrupt the flow of conversation in that regard. Also, please note we could use your help on Patreon. I asked you the question about the ads because we need your help in order to keep improving the channel with equipment, etc. Hence my constant request that you consider us on Patreon/Tesla Advisor. $1 or $2 a month would be really helpful in helping us to grow and do a better job. The next thing I wanted to sort of mention is that we're always looking for things that you guys would like us to cover. So definitely open to recommendations and changes, as well as stories that we should cover. Now, today is Thursday, April 19th. Just a reminder, we'll be on Sunday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern, for our next show. And I just wanted to sort of generally note that show is coming up. That way you'll be able to anticipate us in terms of our next live show. Today I'm going to start off, first of all, with the color yellow. There is a safety sort of bulletin/notice that's come out on Tesla, where as you look in the press, you'll notice that the state of California is investigating because evidently there's a number of incidents of injuries and safety issues that have been happening, and those haven't been reported properly, and therefore they're getting a lot more scrutiny right now as a result. I also was kind of surprised because there was a list of issues that had been brought up, and one of them that I thought was amazing on the list, and I'll post this on Tesla on our YouTube page, is the fact that Elon Musk does not like the color yellow. Now, I am fascinated because the color yellow, if you visit factories anywhere in the United States, you'll notice that when you're operating with a bunch of machinery and so forth, there'll be these sort of markers where it kind of guides you as to where people should walk to avoid interfacing with robots that are moving cars or parts or whatever. And so the guidelines for people are typically in yellow. Now, I know a whole bunch of sharp people, including heavy manufacturing people, are on my our channel. So I want to encourage you to also discuss how and why yellow is used. Once I read this, I was really shocked by the comment, because if you go through and look at all of the pictures you see inside the Tesla factories, you will not see yellow. And instead, there are these sort of white borders where yellow might show up in other places. And I was kind of surprised by that, because I thought OSHA's rules, OSHA is the governing body, that's the government agency that dictates how factories and other places are structured, both federally and even on a local basis in states. So I was stunned to see that there was no yellow inside the factory. And so the thumbnail you'll see is pictures of both the Model S and the Model 3 factory, and you can kind of tell me, do you see any yellow? Which I didn't. I saw white markers. One of the things, I don't know if you guys know this, but this is useless engineering information. There's a guy named there's a gentleman whose name is Hertz, as in Hertz Corporation. Mr. Hertz used to be a shoeshine boy in New York City back, I think, in the 20s. And one of the things he noticed, or was trying to figure out, was what color could he choose that people would most easily see. So he got into the taxi business, and they actually did some research to figure out what color was it that would capture people's eye most quickly. And it turns out yellow was that color. And so this isn't getting into why OSHA chose the color and why Elon Musk hates it. But the general point is that yellow is an interesting color because there's a way in which you can pick it up with your eye without having to look at it. And it allows to sort of, it allows you to make sure that you don't have run-ins that could be fatal with equipment as that equipment is moving around, particularly because they're using markers that are embedded in the floor to determine where some of the floor-based robots are moving. So in general, one of the items on the list is Elon doesn't like yellow. Yellow is a mandate for everybody else, and it doesn't exist at the Tesla factory. And the suggestion is that it's materially impactful in terms of workers potentially being injured in the process. So this allows me to move into the core of my talk today, which is a further look at what is really going on right now with the factory and why, in particular the factory for the Model 3. So this conversation has been kind of strange, interesting, and the reason I say so is that what I can't believe right now, well, what I've been surprised by on my channel is I should warn you that we operate by something that's called the Hegelian dialectic. And what that means is that if there's an object or an issue, we kind of look at both sides of the issue, good or bad. We're supporters of Tesla, and that's what Tesla Fan Insight is about, but you'll note that we'll cover things that are good and the things that are not so good, with the goal being the fact that, I don't know if you know this, but everything that's published on Tesla, be it written or on places like YouTube, it's collected by special companies that work for Tesla. And all of that stuff is reviewed to determine what was said, to see if there's anything that the company needs to address. So part of the conversation is between you and I, but the conversation is actually going on between myself and the company. And as you guys share things in your comments, etc., you're actually influencing the forward progress of the company. So I just wanted to note that to you. So the next thing I wanted to sort of review in general with you is the fact that there's this sort of battle going on between the Model S factory construct and the Model 3 factory concept. Now, in the case of the Model S, as you all know, Toyota sold that factory to Tesla for a song. So the core logic of how, I apologize, there's a security guard going by me there. The problem that pops up is that there's kind of a battle between two logics here. And as you may recall, it may be because the Model 3 or S line has been around for a while, but we really haven't had any shutdowns and restarts and all the things that are going on with the Model 3 line at the Model S line. And I believe a part of that is the fact that, number one, they had more operating space that they were working with. Number two, the line that they were working with is actually a reflection of the structure of manufacturing lines that Toyota had in place. So Tesla just had to replace a lot less to sort of apply the principles of good or lean manufacturing that Toyota's been developing for 50 years. In fact, there's actually something called TPS, Toyota Production System, and it's a continuously improved process that blends the needs of the company, suppliers, and customers to deliver. So Tesla discusses Toyota all the time. I discuss Toyota because they're considered the #1 quality manufacturer anywhere in the world, and they're quick because of that quality. They're able to attract and retain, customers because their cars are well built and last for long periods of time. One of the running jokes or interesting elements of this is if you look it up, about 6 years ago, there was an incident in New York where people were waking up and finding out the rear doors of their car were missing. They did some research and found out that the Toyotas don't break down. The Toyotas don't break down very often, and as a result, they were having the insurance companies were having a hard time finding parts for cars that were wrecked. So the rear doors of the Toyotas, the Camry in this case, were selling for $4,500 a piece because they couldn't find. They had to keep bidding up the price in order to get the doors they needed. So that's a long-winded statement to just discuss the fact that Toyota is renowned for their quality. And again, if you take a look at the Blue Book and other entities, they get 30, 50, 80% more per vehicle based on number of miles driven than any other manufacturer because of these quality parameters. So moving on, the bottom line is that the Model S line was built under the rubric of how this Toyota process works. Now, what's really interesting is Elon Musk just announced that humans are underrated. Now, what he's referring to is the fact that in the last about 15 years, the percentage of robots used by Toyota on their lines has not increased. So there's a Sanford Bernstein researcher / analyst who did a piece, and what he pointed out was he's arguing that the Model 3 is somewhat in trouble in its production. And the reason is that one of the things Toyota found was that instead of trying to go after cost by using a lot of robots, and so the logic of robots everywhere is that once the robots are programmed and running properly, there's no need to spend the cost on a human being there. And they don't require benefits. They don't, there's all these benefits of robots. The challenge that they're having is that according to Toyota, only 15% of the Toyota production lines are handled by robots. Human beings are blended in. So the structure of the Toyota production line is you set up the production line with human beings primarily, and then you incrementally install automation with robots as a way to sort of enhance how that line runs. If you go the other route, by building a line that's fully automated and then you put people in, the problem you can run into is that you bake in errors in what you're trying to produce. So Elon Musk has been having a battle in the press between the fact that we're going to go ahead and build a fully automated line and then throw a few people in, and we're going to use this and beat Toyota at its own lean manufacturing game. And guess what's happened? It's resulted in several shutdowns, having to rip out parts as he's described, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm reviewing all of this because I wanted to encourage my very well-informed viewers to take some time to read about how the process of lean manufacturing under the Toyota production system works, and even go to the point of noting that part of their system is that they view their suppliers, Toyota views their suppliers as integral partners to how they deliver quality. So they will go to the partner or production site and actually help build Toyota principles into those suppliers so that when they get parts, the principles under which the parts have been manufactured also fit. So there's a symbiotic relationship between suppliers and the company that Toyota feels are critical, and that relationship extends all the way to their customer. Now, and employees, etc. Now, I think this is interesting because Elon Musk just put out a memo, and he was talking about the fact that, well, if the suppliers basically don't get their act together, we might have to get rid of you. Or that was, he didn't say that. It was kind of implied that everybody needs to get together in order to achieve the 6,000 production target that he has in mind. The challenge that pops up with this, though, is that it's one thing to have all your partners, be it employees, customers, suppliers, etc., all integrated and working as a team for success. It's another to sort of start waving the "we might get rid of you if you don't handle your business" on, be it any of those folks. And I bring this up because I really think that Tesla's a great company, great products, great potential. They're also learning at what does and does not work. And the fact that they went for heavy automation without applying the principles of lean manufacturing as I've described is a sign that there's a learning mode still going on, and we're all part of helping the company understand, hey, this will or won't work. A great example of this that comes to mind and I was thinking about is take some time to look at the difference between the door handle on a Model S and the door handle on a Model 3. The Model S, the door handle is beautiful. It pops out and you can grab it and jump in the car. The problem is it's been the number one repair issue that the Model S has had, is that mechanism of popping out, et cetera, has been going bad. And once off warranty, it's like $2,000 a door handle to fix. And it can take a long time. So when we moved to the Model 3, because of all the issues they had with that technology, there's no in and out. They were able to get the aerodynamic impact that they wanted without having to go with this complex mechanism that keeps breaking down. So all the complaints and we need a change here have resulted in the Model 3 getting that change, and I hope newer Model S's, they'll simply change to a Model 3 door handle and get rid of that issue because it is a repair run problem. So what I'm sort of building all this up to discuss or get to is the fact that right now the Model 3 factory isn't working as planned. Basically, from what Elon Musk has said, they're walking backward from fully automated to adding more human beings into the production process. I think it makes sense based on what 50 years of Toyota manufacturing has suggested is a great idea. The biggest shock, and I kept rereading this line repeatedly from the Sanford Bernstein analyst that I still can't believe, is he pointed out that the more automated the line is, it's inversely proportional to the number of defects you're going to have in that car. So what he's basically suggesting that Toyota found was that extreme automation can result in institutionalized defects in the vehicle rather than building the line first with people and then introducing robots. That's how you get to high quality. So what all of this is suggesting is that what we may be facing is that Tesla, one of my viewers was making a comment about the fact that Elon's goal is to build a dreadnought factory where, because you're working with robots, you can do a jogging speed through the entire building for the production of a car, and now you have cars produced quickly. The challenge, though, when you do this, is if you're producing cars with a large number of defects, once that car gets out to the end, your end users end up with problems when they buy the car, and now they have to come back at the back end to have all that stuff fixed. And so this can be, this can be a huge issue. So I want all you guys who are going to flame me about the fact that I'm being negative on Tesla, etc. No, don't flame me. All you have to do is note the difference between the Model S and the Model 3 lines. Tesla tried something new which violated the principles that they learned from Toyota and other great manufacturers around the world, and it hasn't worked. So now they're having to try to retrofit their way back there. And what I was suggesting is that the challenge with manufacturing is, Elon Musk pointed out, with manufacturing, it's not like software. You change a little code and everything is fine. He had to literally rip out a certain part of the line because it was not working as planned. And so what I'm suggesting is that this is the second stoppage to try to address what he's calling bottlenecks. And I don't think they're bottlenecks. I think they're fundamental design structure challenges. And when you start getting into structure challenges, the nature of the changes needed to get success is way different. So if you call it a bottleneck, it means we had this one little problem, we're going to hook it up, we're done. One little problem like that is an overnight fix. It's not a shutdown for 5 days. That's an attempt to get at structural issues. So we can't say exactly what they're working on, but when I say structural issues, what I mean by that is that when you have a building, if a building is supposed to be 2 stories tall, there's a foundation that goes under that building. Now, if you decide to change and make it a 4, 6, 8-story building, you have to go back in and redo the foundation of the building. Otherwise, you can't carry that weight upward. So this is what I mean by structure and how things might be going. So I just want to note that I'm hopeful it works out, but it's my analysis that they're going to make some changes, and after they make those changes, we'll get better throughput and hopefully the 5,000 we need per month. But do not be surprised if they end up having to build a brand new facility elsewhere that bakes in these lessons we just talked about, because they already had the Model S line working fine and producing vehicles. They had several problems. One, they want to produce 3 times the number of vehicles. Number 2, they had space constraints when it comes to where they wanted to build a factory, which is right next to the Model S. So if they choose a new location not far away, they just leased 1 million square feet where they're building the truck plant in Livermore. Someplace out there they could get a building the same size, hook that thing up with the same line that the Model S has, and now they have a facility that works based on the lessons they learned without having to spend a bunch of time and money retrofitting on stuff that already hasn't worked. So I wanted to bring this conversation up, not because, hey, you're being mean to Elon or Tesla. Guess what? They already know what works because it works in the Model S factory. All I'm saying is, why not just port the lessons of the Model S over to the Model 3 and eliminate the whole discussion of bottlenecks by the fact that you have a working system that's been carefully thought out for 50 years, and you really wanted to go heavy automation for a good reason, but the reality is that it just doesn't work, bottom line. So do you keep retrofitting? And so the building analysis I gave you is, well, why not just take the building apart and put it back together again after you build a new foundation? You can definitely do that, but it's probably cheaper time-wise to just throw up a new facility elsewhere and get rolling in that facility rather than go through this constant stoppage and retrofitting process, because it can be really expensive to do things in that way. Remember, the change orders on these construction facilities are expensive because they've been shut down, and they lost $500 million in revenue this week with this shutdown because they didn't produce 2,000 cars. So I'm getting near the end of my time for today, and I wanted to thank all of you, be it Bromans or Jerry or others that will be tuning in once this is posted. Looking forward to all your comments. You do have homework for today, and the homework is, see this color yellow? I want you to look at all those factory photos, including the one I have on the thumbnail, and tell me, do you see any yellow in a Tesla facility? And the answer is nope, because Elon Musk doesn't like it, and I think it's actually an Osha violation to not have it, because employees would find it easier to manage themselves in the factory if they did have yellow. So it's a quirk. It hasn't created any major catastrophes, I don't think, but it's noteworthy that it's one of the things that Tesla is against. And come to think of it, I've never seen, it may be out there, but I don't think I've seen a yellow Model S. and definitely haven't seen a yellow Model 3. So, I think it's kind of interesting. You know, I want to thank all of you. Please, a reminder, we'd appreciate $1 or $2 support on Patreon. We've now started producing regular written material, and we will start offering 2 or 3 times a month Patreon only subscriber shows. So I don't want you guys to miss out, and for $1 it's totally worth it to sign on. This is Greg for Tesla Fan Insight. German, tschüss, macht's gut. French, au revoir, lehitraot. Hebrew, lehitraot. Choda hafez, Hebrew Farsi. I want to thank, in Jamaica we say, enough respect, walk good man. I want to thank all of you for taking time out today. Look forward to our next conversation on Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern. And also looking forward to any and all comments beneath. And remember, this is our yellow show. No yellow.